So what just took place in Mexico City recently, just 3 days ago, where we have seen people protesting, conducting like a street protest, like the image was showing, in which people of different ages, it seems working class people protesting, conducting a protest about rent increases, about the cost of life, cost of living increases in appearing. Most of them appear to be students. Most of them, and they are. I mean, the students, working class people, just regular, next door guy. Just regular people, just like you and me, uh, protesting. Of course, how much that part of the city of Mexico has been changing in a way that, and what people call gentrification, which just sounds like a very academic word, gentrification. Who understand? I mean, how many people knows exactly what gentrification is? But that word gentrification has been used so much because of this incident. But it's nothing. It's not new, guys. This gentrification thing, I would say, a thing. It happens. It happens before. It's not new. Of course, now 25, I would say 1995 to the year 2000, as you recall. Remember the dot-com explosion, the internet-based companies that exploded in the world, not just in the United States, but in in the whole world. But it felt more, of course, this is a Silicon Valley of a product, a Silicon Valley creation, right? Of the mainly, I'm not saying just the United States, but through the world, China, I mean Russia, all these. Throughout Europe, the internet explosion was clearly, making the route, you know, uh, making the pathway for a new world, and that's what happened in the 1990s, especially from 1995 to 2000. But that led to, of course, the market crash of the 2000, early 2000s. I mean, the whole thing exploded. Many people were bankrupt, and you know what happened. The story is there. But this thing about gentrification that is applying to the in this case for digital nomads, which back then it wasn't very much visible, but digital, you can find digital nomad nowadays. These digital nomad are guys who are working with their computer in a suitcase. They have the companies, in a suitcase, a small suitcase, a briefcase, actually a small briefcase with a computer. They have 3 or 4 companies working, or they're just employees of an American company, for instance, or a European based company working from anywhere in the world. Basically, they're high paying employees, but they just can work from Cancun, for instance, not just Mexico City. They can work from Acapulco, from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, working at the resort, working with the company, making huge amount of money. But coming back to the situation of what's going on in Mexico, part of Mexico, not all Mexico City, part of Mexico City, that's what's going on. So local people are really resentful. I mean, and with good, they have a good point. I mean, they have a point of why they can resent. I mean, they were people, hardworking people, working class people, who are working 2, 3 jobs, working long weeks, and of course they deserve to have their own apartment. They have to buy, to be able to rent, affordable, to have at least, to use 25 or 30% of the salaries of their salaries, just like anywhere, guys. That's not just Mexico City, just like anywhere in the world, in which they can use 25 or 30% of their salary to pay rent, or to be able to buy an apartment, like a condo in an apartment building or something. But the increase has been that of the last, according to the official data, 50% increase in the price of apartment in some part in this specific area of Mexico City. So for local people who've been saving for years and years to be able to pay, the down payment for, they have now they find themselves on the street, almost going homeless because they are not able to afford to pay rent or to buy a condo or an apartment in this part of the city. So the protest was, of course, they had a point. There's a point of that, but the thing is that with all the public discourse, the public speech about what's going on in the world, in public policy between Mexico, United States, Canada, Europe, and the whole thing, it's more inflating the whole situation of what could be just a situation of rent increase. I mean, that's what happened in New York City. Remember in the 19, precisely in the late 1990s, Queens, Brooklyn, all this area was gentrified. How did it happen? Well, working class people who live, on those part of Queens, Brooklyn, most of Brooklyn nowadays. I mean, those people who, working class people who work in garbage trucks, people, teachers, I mean, factory workers, people, who are paying rent. I mean, the rent was affordable though back on those days for those people, working class in general, factory workers, teachers, like I said, firefighters, even police officers. They don't make that much money. The more, even think about the police force of New York City is like 45,000 people, 45,000 police officers. Most of them, they don't make that over $60,000 a year, $50,000. I mean, with that kind of money, you can in New York City to pay rent. I mean, apartment rent costs $3,000, $4,000 in part of Queens. And so this part of Queens and Brooklyn was gentrified. Precisely, that's the point. Gentrification took place there. What was gentrification exactly is? That's what it is. Displacement of people. That's the definition. That's the, lay definition. I mean, to be understand clearly. Displacement of people with deep pockets, with good bank account, with big displacement of these people with moving to a neighborhood and renting or buying apartments at any price they ask the owners. If the owners, if the apartment was like the rent was $1,500, these people will come with deep pockets and they can pay $2,000, $2,500. I mean, so the increase was almost 100% when gentrification took place in Queens and Brooklyn in New York City, two of the five boroughs of New York City. That's what happened. So people were pushed out to the ghettos, to the ghettos and homelessness, and people were pushed out to cheaper areas of the Bronx, for instance. Yeah, the places where with violence, people didn't want to. It's hard to raise a family where so many people, people out of jobs, out of that people living in public housing. It's hard. I'm not blaming them. All I'm saying that people will find always somebody to blame for their and well, they're blaming digital nomads in Mexico City nowadays because of the situation of rent increase. 50% increase, that's the official data, almost 50%. In many cases, even more. Because digital nomad are kids, in their 20s, just out of college, many of them, out of college, 24, 25 years old kid, with their computer, making $200,000 a year, working from anywhere they want to work. They could be in the Philippines. It could be in Vietnam. There are thousands of them moving to Vietnam, Philippines, Mexico City, Buenos Aires. This could be anywhere. This is not an issue of that particular place in like Mexico that's taking place. This could be just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, this is just a little like a match, like a flame it could spread out to all over the places. I mean, as how this issue is being approached in different parts. Of course, countries like Uruguay, Paraguay, Uruguay in South America, they're welcoming them with open arms. Come, please. Even if they don't, and one of the excuses, one of the complaint of people protesting these digital nomads, or are that they don't pay taxes locally, which is it's true. They don't pay. I mean, you're working from your computer, and your base company is in the U.S. or Canada or London. I mean, or New York. You pay taxes back home, most likely. I mean, if you're an American citizen, you're a Canadian citizen, you pay taxes back home because it's not a physical company. Your company, you have your own company or you are employed for a big company, right? Back home, so you're only doing your work from far away. But the only things the coffee shop where you work, your own apartment building where you inside your apartment, that's your office right there. But you're not registered as a company. Remember that in Mexico, you can, as an American citizen, just you can just come for 180 days, visa free, basically. 180 days, no question asked, and you can just get out of the country, seal your passport again, you exit, and you come back 2 days later for another 180 days. So people, digital nomad in Mexico and other parts of, specifically Mexico, well, with 180 days, because some countries will give you 90 days. Like in Central America, most countries you have visa free if you have a strong passport, right? Which is one of the strong passport is considered the American passport, the United Kingdom passport, the British, the French, German, Canadian. Those are the G7 countries. If you're a citizen of one of those G7, you're considered a strong part. You can almost anywhere in the world you can be almost visa free. I'm not saying everywhere. Like in China, you go to China, you have to ask for a visa if you're American citizen, of course. You have to file or do the process of a visa. But what's happening is that's what's happening in Mexico. It could be the tip of the iceberg, I said before. Of course, as an expat, if you are in Mexico, I mean, there are over a million, almost, yes, close to the million expats in Mexico. People who just come for retirement, they're not exactly, specifically digital nomads. And as they, as they live in small villages, small towns, in medium-sized city in Mexico, they bring a positive view, a positive for tourism. I mean, think about how many millions of people visit Mexico, and the expat community in Mexico is large. For from industrial country, like many Europe, even Chinese, not just we mention always Europe, but Chinese expats are a huge amount in Mexico, and of course they are part of this implosion of digital nomads who work overseas for their own companies. And who knows? I mean, if there is a new legislation in Mexico, to tax people with who work, from from the land from Mexico to their companies back home. I mean, it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it just the approach that needs to be taken. It just calm down. I mean, hopefully, just a protest that was the only one. But if this sparks, this keep moving to other parts of the country, that could be, of course, a worry. People start worrying. I mean, if you are an expat, with even long time expat in Mexico, that you are part of. Even the expats have children now in Mexico that are Mexican born, and of you or you have acquired the Mexican citizenship. That's a positive thing. I mean, you blended with society. You love this. It's beautiful. Mexico is people with good heart. People with good heart means there is no issue of because of people's nationality. I mean, with the foreign nationals, they don't specifically uh, target group because of their nationality. I don't. I mean, this recent event, I would say incident, just came about surprise. I mean, it was surprising for many people that this thing is taking place. But as a, if you're an expert in Central America, I don't think it should be worrying in Central America about not even Mexico. Hopefully, this is like an isolated event in which, of course, the local, the local Mexico City officials are going to, do what they need to do to create more public housing, like more affordable housing. There are solutions that of course, public officials are keeping an eye on this, the situation, what's going on, and well, they have people have the constitutional right to protest on the street as they do it lawfully on the not to break the law, of course, and it's an internal issue, of course, in Mexico, but as an expat, you just be aware of your surroundings. I mean, where you go with. I mean, it doesn't have to change your life. I mean, your way of life of where if you live in Mexico, if you live in Central America, South America, or the Philippines, it doesn't have to. But you have to just be patient, be tolerant, be respectful for local laws, local custom, guys. And for digital nomads, I mean, for retired people is for if you're retired living on a pension or social security, it's harder for you to move to a different location if you feel that for your safety, right? But this is not an issue of safety issue, of course. You have to be aware of mass people gathering for mass protests or things like that, because remember, you're still an expat, you're living in a foreign land. But of course, for digital nomads, I mean, they can just take their briefcase and move anywhere you want, guys. I mean, and they have they make good money. Usually, I'm not a a digital nomad guy. I don't do that kind of work. But for those you can still, like, there was a guy, another YouTuber who says, go where you're treated best. If you feel that you can be treated best in the Antarctic continent, which, by the way, is only 5,000 people live. Huge continent. That's one of the biggest continents. Mass of white, snow. Nothing. I mean, only 5,000 people live in the Antarctic, right? I mean, if that's the last place you have to go, I mean, why not? I'm not suggesting that's the solution. All I'm saying is that there are many other countries, of course, Uruguay, Paraguay, Argentina, even Colombia. I mean, whatever they say about violence in Colombia, or there are many places in Colombia you can, do your work as a digital nomad. So um, there is always a place where you can fit. This planet is a big, it's a big planet. It's and wherever you see there is a tolerance for other people. I mean, there is no issue of intolerance. I mean, that's an issue that people, you know, uh, like I said, public speech sometimes divides peoples. By ethnic groups, by political views, by this, by that. Try to avoid those. And Uruguay, Paraguay, it's quite. Those are. It's like Uruguay is considered like the Switzerland of America. Like, it used to be Costa Rica, but Costa Rica has been, so much with so many foreigners. Prices are going up too in some places. Costa Rica, and Costa Rica knows that. Uh, it used to be called the Switzerland of America, but things are changing in Costa Rica. Still beautiful. You can still afford to live there, but there are other spots like Paraguay, Uruguay that that's making their name known. That you're still welcome. I would like, just thank for your watching this channel. And please, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you like my content, please give us a thumbs up. That helps the algorithm on this channel. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.